Okay, folks, it's time. Let's go ahead and get started with our meeting of May 12th, 2025 at 6:03 p.m. Before we go through the start of the agenda, if you'll join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right, Ms. Trimble, if you'll do roll call for us, please.
Absolutely. 1 second. Anderson.
Present.
Becerra.
Present.
Campbell.
Here.
Carlino.
Present.
Farmer.
Present.
Jones. Absent.
Yes.
Jordan.
Present.
Nelson.
Present.
Nugent.
Present.
Savage.
Present.
Cheryl. Absent.
Yes, she is. Absent.
And Vasika.
Present.
All right, and we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. So we do have some minutes from May 5th, 2025. Any questions or changes to those minutes? Not seeing any. All right. Those minutes will remain as submitted. Thank you. All right. Next, we move on to our committee schedule for May 14th, 2025. You all have a very robust committee schedule this coming Wednesday. Claire, do you have any changes or updates on that committee schedule?
No updates that I'm aware of.
Okay, great. For members of the public, just to mention again, this committee schedule for May 14th, and all committees are located on the City Council agenda website. Scrolling down to the calendar allows you to see which committee and supporting materials for each of those agenda items are available for review. And this is about 9 hours of committee meetings this week. So wishing you all the best on that big Wednesday. All right. We now move on to special presentations and proclamations this evening, and we have a neighborhood council update of the Miller Creek Leadership Team report. So I'll get this microphone turned on. If you'll say your name for the record, please.
I'm Alex Frigario, leadership team member for Miller Creek. And let's see here. I think I was told I have 3 minutes for this presentation, which those of you that know me, that's going to be tough.
I think you're doing okay. We don't have much on our agenda tonight, and it's not a public comment. This is actually part of our agenda. This is an agenda presentation. We ask you to not go on and on, but you're okay. We're not going to time you for 3 minutes.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
I don't know.
Public comment, we do that, but.
So yeah, I'm here to report on what we've been up to in Miller Creek, and also I have a request as well. So the neighborhood leadership team, we're continuing to host our biannual events. So every year at the end of the summer, we have our community meeting, which usually we have a pretty good turnout to. We usually get 100, 150 people there, have some speakers arranged, and it's always a good time, a good meal, and hopefully we get a few things solved in the neighborhood as well. The other event we do every year is the Neighborhood Cleanup Day, which this year was postponed because we're trying to get a new date on the schedule for all the neighborhoods. It was traditionally held on April 20th. As you all know, April can be a pretty iffy month for the weather, and so many years we didn't get a very good turnout because of snow or sleet or whatnot. So the neighborhood office is thinking of bumping that further out. So we're gonna continue to do those 2 events. Then moving on, little personal story. In 2018, I joined the Miller Creek Neighborhood Council because I moved to Miller Creek the year before, and my daughter was going to school at Jeanette Rankin Elementary, the new school down the road in Maloney Ranch. Every day when I drove her to school, there was kids walking along that road where there's no sidewalks. It's a super narrow shoulder on that road. There's no clear way to get through the neighborhood in Old Miller Creek into Maloney Ranch. And every day I thought to myself, this is a problem. At the very least, it's a huge inconvenience for all these kids that have to walk this every day. And at the worst case scenario, we're going to have an accident someday. And something's got to be done about this. And so I thought maybe the first step for me is just to join my local neighborhood council and try and get the ball rolling on that. And in that first year in 2018, we did have some pretty good success. We had a meeting with Kevin talking about some of the plans that were already sort of in place for the neighborhood and how things could shape up in the future. And then, of course, things kind of stalled out and we had COVID and everything went on pause for a few years. Then recently, as a lot of you are aware, a new subdivision went in Maloney Ranch and talks started again about the road itself and what sort of traffic devices we're going to need there to accommodate all the new homes. And that it's going to necessitate a roundabout on that hairpin turn. And if we're going to build the roundabout, sidewalks are going into, streetlights, all those kind of things that I had originally hoped for. We're at a point right now, though, where I'm back to being a little concerned about this project because I know as a CIP, it's probably going to be funded as an SID, a lot of acronyms there. But I know that part of the SID process is that a postcard has to go out asking all the people that are in that designated area what their thought is on it. And what their thought will be on paying a couple $1,000s to fund this project. And I think in this current climate we're in, with taxes the way they are, it would almost certainly come back as a majority no. I know that the meetings have already happened and the decisions have already been made on how much the developer will pay on that roundabout. And so that option's gone. And so it's going to fall to the citizens or the city. And like I said, I'm a little concerned about what's going to happen when that postcard goes out and it gets returned with those no answers, and then what's going to happen with the project. But moving on from that, as a neighborhood council, sometimes I feel like all we do every year is those two events. We do our big meeting with the community and we do our cleanup day, and that's about it. And at times I kind of question what our contribution is, how we get more people involved, how we make a difference in the neighborhood. And it seemed a little bleak until last year when the neighborhood department rolled out their plan for neighborhood action plans. And they had put their heads together and kind of addressed this issue of, you know, every month neighborhood councils meet, we talk, we have a lot of big ideas, but we have a small budget and a small amount of people. And so we don't really accomplish that much. And so the idea was with these neighborhood action plans, you could actually come up with an actionable plan and how to make it a reality. And so one member of our team took this on and they endeavored on a large survey, just asking people what their thoughts were on what the issues in the neighborhood were, what they wanted to see changed and so on. We collected over 1,000 surveys, many online, but even more by hand. And we identified all these issues. And you won't be surprised to hear that a lot of them are kind of big, all-encompassing issues that you all deal with every year. You know, what to do with the homeless population, what to do with the rising property taxes, all the various concerns that not just happen in Miller Creek, but in Missoula as a whole. So as a neighborhood, we took that survey and we took that information, we put our heads together and said, what can we do about this with our $1,200 a year budget and the fact that we're made up of 4 volunteers and nobody gets paid for this and so on. And what we came up with was kind of information. If we could just be an avenue for people to get information, that might be the best way for us to assist with this problem. And so our thought was if we had kiosks throughout the neighborhood. Information dispersion is an issue you guys deal with all the time as well in the city as a whole. Engage Missoula was put up, and that's a great way for citizens to find information on various projects around Missoula. The MRA set up a website explaining to people how the MRA works and what projects that funds and so on. But in the end, you really can't drive people to that. You can't force them to look at the website. You can't force them to read their emails. But one avenue we have is the parks in our area. Been to Miller Creek, you know, we have a lot of great parks around and they get used a lot. There's always people in the parks, there's always activities going on. And so our thought is that if we could make that information readily available to people at these public areas where they tend to congregate on their own, maybe we could help disperse that information that everyone needs and wants and address some of these issues that we had. One example is we get a lot of people that talk about emergency routes in Miller Creek. And Stacy and Bob know firsthand that this comes up every single year, and they have to explain it every single year. You know, everybody sees that there's only one road out of Lower Miller Creek. What if we had a windstorm like last summer and a giant ponderosa falls across it? What do we do? And usually they say we need a bridge across the Bitterroot. But we know that that's not realistic. It's not going to happen. Studies have been done, but we continue to answer that question every single year. With these kiosks, we could have some emergency evacuation routes displayed. We could show people where to go, who to contact in the case of an emergency, and we post that information up, and it's there year round, and people can look at it and answer their own questions all the time. So it's an example of how we think these kiosks could serve the neighborhood, and sort of how we as a team could help the city and help the folks in Miller Creek get that information that they need. One hiccup we're running into it with is we're not having great communication from the Parks Department. We can't seem to get answers on where we could put these kiosks. Is there some sort of design standard we need to adhere to? Just kind of simple things like that. And I think it's important that we get these answers, because I have a feeling once Miller Creek starts producing these kiosks, all the other neighborhoods are going to see this as a route they can go as well, with their action plan, with their small budget, with their volunteer power. And I think we're going to see a lot of these go up across the city and be sort of a great avenue for information for Missoula residents. So I guess what my ask is that I'm hoping that you all will help us facilitate this project, and also help us get this information out on this CIP. Like I said, we get a lot of questions about it. We get a lot of people that are concerned. They want to know what's happening. A lot of them are unaware right now that the option for a special improvement district is even out there. I would love to be able to give them the answers on how a special improvement district works, just the simple procedure for it as far as those postcards go, what sort of percentages you need reported. I can't seem to find those answers on the city website, on the state website, and unfortunately I can't seem to get emails on what that procedure is, how it looks, what the timeline is for it. So yeah, that's what we've been up to in Miller Creek, but my ask is that hopefully you all kind of use these neighborhood councils a little more. In the Missoula Charter, Article 6, it talks about how there has to be neighborhood councils established, and the whole purpose is to allow people the chance to interact on the city government level, and also be an asset to the city. And I feel like we have all these neighborhood councils across the city, and they're sort of a tool that has been placed in the back of the shed and left to collect dust and whatnot. But we're there to be used, and I think we could be a great tool for the city itself and to help disperse this information and help spread the knowledge of what's happening and the options people have. So thank you for the time tonight. I appreciate the chance to present our report.
Before you go, thank you for your excellent report. I want to make sure I had your last name right. Did I have that right? Fergario?
Yep, Fregerio.
Fergario.
Fergario.
Fergario. Okay, thank you, Mr. Fergario. Anybody have any comments or questions? Councilor Campbell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Boy, once again, thank you, Alex, for all that information, and congratulations on, 7 years now with that neighborhood council. So obviously, I mean, you're doing outstanding work there and have really great engagement with the neighborhood you serve. So congratulations on that. It's outstanding. Yeah, I too am concerned with what's going on, development-wise with that road out there at the roundabout and street, and we spoke a little bit about that offline. And I know we spoke earlier too, some months ago about getting someone from Public Works to maybe have some sort of forum or some sort of engagement at the school out there or something. They come out and maybe do a Q&A out there. Perhaps we need to go that route and make that available well before the general meeting in August, September, whenever you have it.
Yeah,
So-
definitely. I mean, I think it goes without saying that the city of Missoula very much wants to see this project go through, and in order to do that, that SID needs to get approved. And I think the neighborhood council could be a great tool for getting that information out there. When the initial subdivision was being planned and put in, we held a informational meeting that we had several members of council come to, answer questions, just help people better understand the project. And I think it really facilitated engagement from the citizens of Miller Creek. And we would be more than happy to facilitate another meeting here moving forward to explain to people how the CIPs are funded, what the project looks like, and then, of course, how an SID works and sort of what their options are with that.
Yes, I think, Ms. Anderson and I, we definitely would want to reach out to Donna and find out what the deal is with any feedback you have or have not received on the kiosk idea. It sounds like an interesting idea. I haven't heard anything quite like that, but it would be a way of getting more public outreach directly with, the programs that are available and anything that might be coming up in the neighborhood like that. So I think it's worth exploring, and want to make sure that, we're getting engagement from PNR on that. So we'll surely look into that. And finally, I was just wondering about the neighborhood cleanup day, because I know April came and gone. I remember doing it last year, and I was like, oh, they didn't do it this year. But yeah, I understand what you're saying about the weather. It was iffy last year, and you just never know. But I'll look for that as well.
Yeah, it's going to come back. I know Kalina and Melissa are just, they took a survey for all the neighborhoods, and so they're going to pinpoint a date that they think is the optimal one. So it'll happen again this year, just later.
Excellent. Well, thank you. It sounds like we'll definitely have some opportunities for follow-up with your ward representatives and different departments on some of the items that you listed tonight. And thank you very much for your service to the community and the city, being part of local government through representation of your neighborhood, and really appreciate all the effort that you're making and being here tonight. Did you have another? I'm sorry, Councilor Anderson, please.
That's okay. Thanks so much, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Alex. Great to see you. Yes, thank you for all the work that you guys do in the neighborhood. It is, Ward 5 touches a lot of neighborhoods, and the Miller Creek neighborhood meeting, maybe it's just I'm partial to Big Dipper ice cream, but that's always a fun one to attend. Just wanted to let you know that I've got an email into Donna, and I've CC'd you on it to basically, and Bob as well, to say, what do we need to do to kind of design guidelines and things like that, as well as to Kevin Slobart asking where we are with the SID project. So more to come on both of those. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Great.
Yep. Thank you all for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Have a good night. All righty. That wraps up our special presentations. We have no proclamations this evening. We have no public hearings this evening. We do have an item of new business, and this is to confirm the mayor's appointment to the City Board of Adjustment. This is for Owen Mayer to the City Board of Adjustment as a regular member with a term beginning immediately and expiring on June 30th, 2026. His application materials are provided in the agenda, and the fact that you have about 9 hours of committee meetings, this was an opportunity for us to place this item on a pretty light agenda this evening in order to free up some time on Wednesday. So this is really the reason this is on new business. No other reason why. And so this is a recommendation that I'm putting forth for the confirmation to City Council. This would normally be Board of Adjustment, so this would be land use planning. And so curious if I can hand it over to you, Councilor Nugent, and in this case, we would make a motion and we can then take public comment and ask questions. Does that sound okay?
Yep.
All right.
I will put the motion on the floor. I move that council confirm the mayor's appointment of Owen Mayer to the City Board of Adjustments as a regular member with a term beginning immediately and expiring on June 30th, 2026.
All right. Thank you very much. So the motion's been made. This then turns us over to public comment to see if there's any public comment on this agenda item. Any public comment on the confirmation of the mayor's appointment to Owen Meyer to the City Board of Adjustments? I'm not seeing any in the room. Any online? All right, not seeing any online either. So that wraps up the public comment. And then we'll bring it back to council questions and comments. And I see Councilor Nugent with your hand up.
Just a quick one. I just want to say thanks for his willingness to serve. That is maybe not the most interesting all the time, but sometimes very interesting commission to be on, and probably going to become more relevant in our code reform, post-code reform world. So I appreciate the willingness to do that, and I also appreciate not scheduling an LUP meeting for one thing. So I definitely support putting this on Monday night.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Counselor Farmer.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say quickly, thank you to Owen for wanting to volunteer. And I've known Owen for a really long time, long before he was an anesthesiologist, back when the Mar Bar was called Sean Kelly's. And he's been just a really engaged community citizen, and I'm really excited that he's willing to serve, and I think he'll be a great asset. So that's all I wanted to mention.
I appreciate that context and additional information. I too found his skills and perspective to be one that I think will be really helpful for that board. And I think, as you said, Councillor Nugent, this will be a board that will have some new interests or needs as we have code reform and the implementation of the new Land Use and Planning Act underway. So, any other council comments or questions? No? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and take a roll call vote on this, Ms. Trimble.
Right. Confirming the mayor's appointment of Owen Mayor to the City Board of Adjustment, beginning with Anderson,
Yes.
Becerra,
Yes.
Campbell,
Yes.
Carlino,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Melson,
Yes.
Nugent,
Yes.
Savage,
Yes.
and Vasika.
Yes.
And that's unanimous.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. And Owen, if you're listening, this is for you. Go Buffalo. Okay. That wraps up our new business items. And we'll next move on to the consent agenda. And so, Ms. Trimble, if you'll walk us through the consent agenda. We don't have very many items, just 3 on here. We'll go ahead and take a look at what we have.
On this evening's consent agenda, we have a motion to approve accounts payable or claims for checks dated May 13th, 2025 in the amount of $2,364,939.67. We have a motion to approve the adoption of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board bylaws. And our final motion is to adopt and authorize the mayor to sign amendment number 1 to the interlocal agreement between the city of Missoula and Missoula County to collaborate on a residential energy efficiency rebate program.
All right. Great. Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on items on the consent agenda? Any public comment on the consent agenda tonight? Okay, not seeing any in the room. Is there any online? All right. Do any council members wish to separate any items on the consent agenda? No hands raised? All right. Then we'll go ahead and take a voice vote on the consent agenda, please.
All right, voting on this evening's consent agenda, all in favor, say aye.
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 And any opposed? And that's also unanimous.
Okay. Thanks, folks. That brings us to regular business, of which we have none. So then we next move on to public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody for public comment on non-agenda items? Come on up. Make sure you please say your name for the record, and I'll go ahead and set the 3-minute timer when you're ready.
Okay, Montana. First of all, Mr. Nugent, I'd like to make a comment that
Master Montana, please direct all your comments to the presiding officer, not directly to council members. Thank
But
you.
you're not the one that made the comment that we need to have the first responders here for our entertainment on the problems that you and
I might not be the one that made that comment, but the council rules still require that you point your comments to me as the presiding officer, not to individual council members.
well,
so
he's
come on, I'm
the
ready to
one
hear
that
ya.
made the comment that you ought to get it together. because I think you are the problem of the problems that are having, as I am, because I've been here for how many times reciting the problems, and it goes right to the board of directors. So Mr. Nugent also made a comment, there's citizens that have good, valuable input of the problems that you want to dish out for the cost of the city. And Bob Campbell made a comment several weeks in regards to the cost of cleanup on Broadway. Not only this year, last year's also. Because somebody seems to be stiffing the taxpayer to their amusement. One other thing, I had an conversation of individual took $200 on whatever you want to call it, of individuals of that facility that you admired, that I call the North Korean Russian embassy, that she got took on good whatever. However, the emails went out immediately. And your hot team seems to advocate the problems that are amongst one another out there, because I laid into them in front of the library. You got an email on that one too. The problem, I think, should stop with you, as Harry S. Truman would say. The buck stops here, and it does not seem to be stopping right where it belongs. I think the taxpayer of Missoula needs to get up on arms, because it's going to cost the city to a jury trial of 2 years of emails, of intercoursing Mr. Big K Montana. And some of these individuals are being questioned by other individuals that don't have the wherewithal for what I'm doing. Am I talking to you, Mayor, or the taxpayers of whoever is listening to MCAT and the news media that should put it to fact of the matter? And I seen one of the comrades, and he's pretty smug at Albertsons, and I laid into that chauvinism is the issue that's on the format of getting it into a jury trial, of how many times that I was persecuted maliciously on defamation of deceit of others. Mayor, what are you getting from the public that you need to share with the public of whole?
Thank you, Big K. Next item, next person up for public comment. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Sage Bennett, B-E-N-N-E-T-T. You all know by now how I feel about the closure of Johnson Street Shelter and the continued application of Ordinance 12.60. The criminalization of unhoused Missoulians will back up our hospitals, our criminal systems, and cost our city far more than keeping a shelter open. I know you all know this. I know many people have tried explaining all of this to you over and over again. Even if you weaponize your incompetence and ignorance, your constituents are not dumb. We understand what you are doing, that you are criminalizing poverty, and we are deeply disturbed and disgusted by this. I'm deeply disappointed about the lack of transparency you've provided your constituents around this. I'm deeply disappointed that you have all been so defensive of being told that you are criminalizing the unhoused when fining people $50 to $500 for trying to survival camp outside and shutting down a shelter is quite literally criminalizing poverty. I'm so disappointed with how much you have gaslit your constituents about all of this and whined about how you are always cast as the bad guys when it comes to the mass amounts of constituents who call you out for criminalizing poverty. Again, you all know how I feel about these horrendous decisions you have made. Closing the Johnson Street Shelter and continuing to enforce 12.60 will result in the deaths of people, especially in the winter. You will be the direct result of death in our community, and that is not me being dramatic. That is a fact of tossing people out on the street, not providing them with any support when it comes to finding housing, or at the very least, not finding them for trying to survive outside. That is going to result in the death of many people in our community. I implore you, if there is nothing that can be done about Johnson Street Shelter, to stop applying the ordinance 12.60. It is going to cost our city more money in doing something that is incredibly ineffective and is just going to worsen the problem that everyone sees from both sides. If you provide people with no support, no alternatives, you don't provide a map of where folks are supposed to be able to camp when it's outside of that 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. ban, people don't know where they're supposed to go. And then you're going to find them, even if they are unaware that they are breaking any kind of law. And then you're going to keep them in this cycle of poverty over and over and over again. So at least get rid of the infractions and the fines of 12.60.
Thank you, Sage. Other members of the public wishing to make comment on items not on the agenda?
My name is Bob Moore. I got a favor to ask, I guess, of the mayor. The former mayor, who's now deceased, assured me many times that the Sleepy Inn would bring a fortune to Missoula. In case y'all haven't noticed, it's still not been sold. How could you be so incompetent, or whatever it is, that the property couldn't be sold? In addition to that, they tried to, he paid about double what he was listing it for. Does that bother anybody except me? Does that bother anybody except me? Up the street a little bit, there's a motel that was purchased by the city. I don't know exactly now. I think it was about $1 million. Called Clark Inn, is that right? And that's all ordered up. What are you going to do with it? Why did you buy it? I'll tell you why I think you bought it. It was the fate it was a friend of the mayor's and the powers that be that actually bought the property. Clark Inn. Hard to believe things like that go on. The other thing, my dear wife wants me to do some house cleaning. So I started today a little bit. And I found this flyer that was mailed to me in the last election. A leader will bring accountability to, will hold the line on property tax. I guess that means keep the property taxes low or lower. I guess that's what it's going to really straighten things out. It's going to lower the property tax. I don't know, mine did not go down. More affordable housing. Why is it your business to improve the housing situation and reduce homelessness? Now, I'd like to have a report
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
to the city next meeting about all these matters.
Thank you, Mr. Moore, for your comments this evening.
Don't rush until people.
Any other public comment this evening on items not on the agenda? Okay. Not seeing any in the room. I see we have a phone number of someone who may wish to comment online. Phone number 529-1655.
It looks like you're unmuted. We can hear you. Or go ahead and speak.
Yeah. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can.
So my name is Travis Mateer. I'm a 25-year resident of Missoula, and I am wanting to comment in support of the closure of the Johnson Street shelter yesterday. Having been the director of the coordinator of the homeless outreach program, I can say that the Johnson Street shelter, from my perspective, has enabled a real challenging aspect for the neighborhood to deal with when it comes to things that are already criminal, like abusing methamphetamine, for example. Those things already are criminal. And so when you're talking about the Johnson Street shelter, you should really look at drug abuse, drug addiction. One of the things I think people should think about, or at least ask, are among the homeless population, which we're now told the numbers are going down. I think that's funny. How many people are here and homeless because they are required to legally be in Missoula? Meaning maybe they have supports in other places, but they can't go other places because they're legally required to be here. That might be something to take a look at in terms of your different populations to make up the houseless community. I want to use the right words. I also want to suggest that calling in for me is very important because I can't come and make public comments in person. So last week I wanted to make a public comment and the system wasn't working. That's too bad. What is working, though, are my Lego building skills. And so my Lego building skills, I'm a Lego master, and I will be taking my latest creation. I call it my Doge dump truck. Our two socialists on council should appreciate it since they were referred to as using the Doge approach last week, which I LOL'd, guys. I totally LOL'd. And so my Doge dump truck, I'll be probably walking around with my little wagon in certain wards talking about my lived experience last summer living in my box truck. How I can't leave Missoula legally, where I want to go live somewhere else, which I don't. And I think it's just going to be really cool to have conversations because right now I operate at about a 95% smile rate, and that means people are smiling as I'm talking to them. It's really amazing. I even had 2 out of 3 municipal judges smile at my Doge dump truck. So it's hard to smile these days. I see so many dour faces. I myself just feel joy because of the Legos in my life, and I'm very excited to share my Lego skills with more people in Missoula. So thank you so much. And now you guys can go about your very important business. Have a great night, guys.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Mateer. Anybody else online that wishes to make public comment this evening? I'm not seeing any hands raised. All right. All right, that wraps up our public comment on items not on the agenda. We'll now move on to communications from the mayor. And I'll just mention briefly that the hotel that a member of the public spoke about tonight on the corner of Scott and Broadway, that is boarded up, is not owned by the city of Missoula. It is owned by the Poverello Center, and they are underway with a project there. It's called Our Montana Heroes. It is where they will be building, they're going to be repurposing that site and creating transitional housing opportunities for homeless veterans. It's been a couple years in the making. It has been boarded up for some time. I think we're all excited to see that go get under construction and activated again. The city has supported that project with various grant sources, and the city council just approved CDBG funding confirmation last week. So thank you for that. So it takes a lot of different funding stacks to make projects like that work. And they are basically getting their design development underway, and I hope that we'll hear a update from the Poverello Center on the progress of that project soon. But that's what that project is, and since you raised that, I thought I would mention that to the public, just what that is. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to council comments, and how about I start with you, Councilor Becerra?
I will pass, thank you.
Okay, you bet. And Councilor Moore. Councilor Moore. What? Councilor Campbell.
Thank you. So yeah, just really quick, this week is National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Week. This is something that was instituted back in 1962 under President Kennedy and affirmed by Congress bipartisanly. This Wednesday at 7 p.m. there'll be a memorial service take place at the Rose Garden Park on Brook Street. It'll take place at 7 p.m. this Wednesday to honor our fallen officers here in Missoula County, both with the sheriff's office, police, Fish and Game that have given the ultimate sacrifice to the community we all live in. So I would invite all of you and invite the public to come on out this Wednesday, 7 p.m. at the Rose Garden Park. So thank you.
Thank you very much for making that announcement. Appreciate that. All right. And Counselor Pasica.
Thank you. Yeah, that is a very beautiful service every year, and I hope that folks can make it.
Thanks. Thank you. I'll pass. Thanks. All right. You bet. Counselor Carlino.
I'll also pass.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Counselor Anderson.
Bob took my one comment, so I knew it was going to get said one way or the other, and I look forward to seeing the public on Wednesday.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Counselor Nugent.
I will pass tonight.
Okay. And Counselor Savage.
I'll also pass. Thank you.
Okay. All right. How about for Counselor Farmer online? Do you have anything you wish to comment on?
No, thank you. I'll pass. Thanks.
All right. You bet. Well, that makes it a quick around the horseshoe here, just making sure. That wraps up then our general comments of council members and folks. We're going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 6:43. Thank you very much for coming down.